And making sure that your cell phone is in a silent position. I'll give each of them about 90 seconds to introduce and ask for your vote, and after that I will start giving them a minute apiece for written questions. Actually, 2 minutes. 2 minutes for introductions. You'll have 90 seconds to close as we start. So we'll just go right down the road here. Ms. Fushsia, we'll start with you.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting us to be here tonight. As you know, I'm Fushsia Spann, and I'm running for the School Board District 3 out of the Navarre area. I chose to run because this is something that's been it's been a passion of mine for a long time. It started off whenever I was a child. I was a foster child for over 5 years, and the teachers were the ones who really made a difference in my life. And as I got older, and the social workers, and as I got older, I really enjoyed school, and it meant a lot to me, got a good education. Then my children came along, they got a wonderful education. They both went through Santa Rosa School District, and for 13 years. And it's time for me to pay it forward. I feel like I have a passion, I feel like I have the skills, I feel like I've been blessed with opportunities in the past to be able to work with a variety of people, all socioeconomic status, as well as educational levels, state legislators, local legislators, contract negotiations, and so forth. I don't know that I can make as big a difference as you might want me to, but nobody would work harder for the students and the teachers and the families of this county. I think the businesses need to be involved, as well as the children's parents and families. Better not talk too long, or they'll call time on me. But I do feel that with my passion, with my skills, I'd like to have the opportunity to at least give you the best effort that I can. And I can be devoted as a full-time employee. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for having us here this evening. I am Debbie Gunnoe, also running for School Board District 3. I am a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel, served 28 years in the Air Force, and bring a very good skill set from that experience, having been second in command of very large facilities with large budgets, multi-million-dollar budgets. But the one thing that brought me into this race is the fact that I have been fighting a monstrous animal that has been accepted into the Florida school system that's called Common Core. And Common Core is a one-size-fits-all approach to education. I have educated myself over the last 3 years on what Common Core is about, and have actively fought it in Tallahassee, attending state school board meetings, going to the legislature and trying to get legislation passed, as well as talking to the Commissioner of Education about some issues that we have, and fight very hard in trying to get Common Core removed from our schools. It has, by legislation, been rebranded Florida Standard, but it is the same animal because it is copyrighted and can't be changed. So that is what brought me into the fight. I figured I've been doing this for the past couple of years, and it's time for me to bring that fight right back here into Santa Rosa County and represent the teachers, represent the parents, and represent the students in making sure they get the absolute best education possible.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here. My name is Carol Boston, and I too am running for School Board District 3. I was very fortunate to have a wonderful and wise mother. She left us a bit too early, but she always said, actions speak louder than words. So I'm not going to tell you what I potentially plan to do. I'm going to tell you what I've been doing for the last 14 years with our school system. I started out by volunteering, which one of the teachers encouraged me to start substitute teaching through that. And I told her I was very sorry, but my previous experience and degree was in business. And since I didn't have an education degree, I couldn't do that. She told me in Florida that doesn't matter. So, sent my transcripts, became a substitute teacher. And I've been doing that. Like I said, started volunteering. I volunteered in school advisory councils, writing school improvement plans. I've developed such a reputation through teaching and volunteering that I was actually asked to administer advanced placement exams this year. I've judged Tropicana speech contests. I'm involved in our schools with youth and our community. I serve on our zoning board, I served on the Economic Reorganization Committee. I was asked to do those by our county commissioner. So my diverse experience in business, in teaching, with the community, I have worked to bring parents, teachers, and students together for success as a Boy Scout leader and in everything that I have volunteered in. Another little saying is, people won't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I did have one young man who, his mom said, well, you really think a lot of Mrs. Boston. And he said, well, you know, Mom, now he was about 11 at the time, she is one of the smartest people in the bar. So I have that distinction as well. Thank you.
All right, well, now the candidates have given their opening statements, and I have some questions from all of you. So I believe Tom has passed out some pieces of paper, and a few of them can come my way.
There's some questions.
Let me just, as you're writing there, let me just give one of my own. I was disappointed it didn't come up in my club's form for school board, so I want to get this right off the bat. It's just a general open question. Give us your thoughts on Common Core. And we'll start just right, actually, Debbie, we'll start with you,
Okay.
and then go around as we've done before. 1 minute.
My thoughts on Common Core. And I only have 1 minute. Common Core is the most recent version of a thing called outcome-based education that has been going on in our schools for nearly 100 years. It's a slow, progressive, deliberate dumbing down of our children. What we have right now with Common Core, they are copyrighted standards that were brought about by the National Governors Association and the Council for Chief State School Officers. They are one-size-fits-all approach, and they were not good enough. At the February State School Board meeting that I attended, they had to add 99 items, and our Commissioner of Education actually said that those items were for the most part very minor. But we had to add back in measurements in money in elementary school, we had to add back in aspects of algebra in middle school and high school, and we had to add back in calculus in high school and middle school. So they need to go.
That was the toughie.
Your question was thoughts on Common Core.
Thoughts on
correct?
Common Core, you directed.
Yes, okay. Thank you. I will be a little bit more broad-based. My father was a high school math teacher. He went to, had the opportunity to go to college on the GI Bill because he was 6 of 12, and that would have been an option for him otherwise. So he taught prior and post Federal Department of Education. So I heard from him my entire life that the federal department's involvement was a detriment to the education system. So I've always been opposed to the federal department's overreaching involvement. In fact, at a legislative hearing I went to with Matt Gates, he and I and some other folks discussed him trying to help eliminate the federal Department of Education.
I think the concept that came out sounded real good. I mean, it'd be nice if we could do those things. It's the mechanism that they're using to implement it that I have some problems with, and in talking with some of the teachers, I think some of them do too. I think one of the things that bothers me about Common Core is I feel like they left the teacher, the real teacher, out of the equation. There were people who wanted to make money, and they're doing that, and then they're giving directives to the teacher and taking the classroom away from the teacher, taking the teacher's creativity, and thus the student winds up being the one that has to pay the consequence for not getting the optimal education they would if you put it back in the teacher's hand to begin with.
All right. Well, thank you for your written questions. Based on what's here, we could probably use a few more. If you have something that's in the back of your mind, send it my way. If there's a duplicate question, that's part of my job, is to consolidate it and give you a good forum here. There's been much discussion, and you'll start, Ms. Lawson. There's been much discussion about whether the district is top-heavy with administration. What do you think? And if you believe it is, what are your plans to correct this?
Well, that would take quite a collaboration. It would take evaluating the job descriptions. What are the job descriptions? Are they clear? Are they concise? Are those individuals performing all those job descriptions? Can some of those be consolidated? Can some of those jobs be consolidated? Which often is the case. I've been involved in corporate restructures, And that's something that occurs. One company I work for went from 13 divisions to 5. And that takes a rather intense evaluation of the jobs, of the people in those jobs, of those job descriptions. And that would take a committee, probably the board, to do that and ascertain where cuts could be made and where jobs could be combined.
Ms. Fushsia?
Well, I'm not real sure if you mean, is it top-heavy within each individual school with,
He's not
or
going
did you?
to ask the question.
Administration, I'll let you construe that.
Okay, because there are two different types of administration. You got one that's at the school board level that's on Canal Street or up here in Milton. I get confused, I think there's two offices. But anyway, or if you're talking about in the school. However, that's something, at this particular point, I don't really know. I would have to be there. I'd have to evaluate it because I haven't had the day-to-day operations working with both sides of it. So I think lots of times we do get top-heavy because we have a tendency to say we need a new project. Well, whenever you've got budget and you need a new project, you also need to look at, okay, is it worth money to spend over here? If our budget says this, then do we need to cut over here? So there's a lot of balance there that needs to be done. So I would be one that could evaluate it fairly, I think, but I'm not sure that I can answer that in a fair manner tonight.
As far as whether the county is top-heavy or not, it could be, again, from the perspective of, do we have too many assistant superintendents? Do we have too many principals or assistant principals? Do we have, too many people that are in leadership positions and not enough people in the Indian positions? Coming from the military, I worked in organizations that were not top-heavy. You had a leader, you had assistant leader, and then you had the branches, and those branches had the people that they needed to run those. My viewpoint on this is you don't need a lot of high-paying positions at the top to manage a school district. You need people with the right knowledge about the right things, making the right decisions, and you could easily reduce the size of the numbers of leaders at the top by making sure that you have the right people doing the right things, making the right decisions.
All right, it looks like the person asking this question wants some basic credentials from you. So a two-part question, and we'll start with you, Ms. Fushsia. First part, how many school board meetings have you attended? Second part, how long have you been a Republican?
First of all, recently I've only gone to one, but in years past I went to 10 or 15 at least. Part of it's been because of conflict recently. When I've gone, I didn't feel like that there was a whole lot of meat there because I feel like there was a lot of discussion that could be done and maybe it's already been done, and from what I understand. I'd like to see more open public discussions among the school members there, even if we had to have we had to meet twice a month so that the community could be more involved and more participatory. As far as how long have I been a Republican? Since 1976.
How many school board meetings have I attended? Well, locally, none. I have reviewed the school board minutes. I have also reviewed the videos that are online. I've had conflicts, but the number one thing I have been doing is I have been attending state school board meetings because that is where I'm fighting against Common Core. I attended a meeting in February where they did the vote on implementing Common Core into our schools K through 12. We had about 100 or more parents, teachers, a scientist, and concerned citizens that were at that meeting and spoke out against Common Core, spoke out against the standardized testing. And yet the school board, the state school board with the Commissioner of Education agreed to implement Common Core, voted unanimously to implement Common Core, rebranded Florida Standard, K through 12 starting next year. Oh, Republican. How long have I been a Republican? As long as I can remember. Let's see, 73, 74 when I first registered to vote.
I'll do the Republican first, so that I don't forget. So it's Republican and school board meetings. Gotcha. Republican, I believe, 1982. And school board meetings, I have attended many. I honestly don't know how many over the last 10, 15 years for various reasons, but a lot to just be informed. In fact, I was just at the meeting this last Tuesday. Since I've been on the zoning board, I haven't been able to attend the ones on Thursday night. But one nice thing that they have done recently is make them available online. So that has made it nice. I have watched some that way, which wasn't available before, which is why I would attend. And in fact, just Tuesday, I brought a Boy Scout to the meeting because he needed to go for his citizenship in the community merit badge. And he called and said his parents knew I would know when the meetings were, so I gave him the choice, zoning board or school board. And he chose school board, so.
All right. Can you cite, and I believe, Ms. Gunnoe, this will be you, can you cite the constitutional justification for federal control of education?
No, I can't because it doesn't exist. Our Constitution does not give our federal government any authority to have any say in our local state school board, our school districts. We are a sovereign state, and that responsibility resides within our state. It also resides within our state constitution. But I had a thought and it's gone, but as far as them entering in, oh, this is it. LBJ wrote in 1965 the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. That was the first time the federal government actually put its tentacles into the states and started taking control of our schools. They started the title money. The Elementary and Secondary Education Act has to be confirmed every 5 years, and that is what led into No Child Left Behind. But the Elementary and Secondary Education Act established the title money, and every time the federal government gives us money, we all know that something comes along with it, that we have those strings that we have to respond to. So they have no business in our schools.
I would have to concur, which I kind of already stated. But no, it doesn't exist, and like I said, I've already advocated for disbanding the Federal Department of Education.
What can I say? I'll take my few seconds to say that we are wasting money from the state level on standardized tests. We just spent or are spending $220 million on this new air test. We are spending $5.5 million sending it out of state to be tested by another state. Now, can you think what our teachers could do with $250 million if it was allowed for the teachers to get together and make the decisions about what needs to happen in the classroom? Because we put men on the moon, we did all kinds of things ahead of all the other nations before we went to all this kind of junk that where the teachers didn't get to have say-so in it. So, excuse me.
All right. Here's another question. How could you stop the current mandates on local schools by the Department of Education on federal and state levels, leaving local county dictating? I can't quite make it out, but I believe county control is what the asking the question is trying to get at. How would we have more school board control than federal and state control? And what can you do to make that happen? And if I recall correct, you start. Yes, please.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think we're just rehashing the same thing. We need to eliminate the Federal Department of Education. I'm sorry to sound like a broken record, but to me that question is pointing to the same thing. In order to get the control back locally, we need to get the federal government out of it. We need to advocate for that at the state school board level and the federal level, and you know that is going to come a lot by our federal legislators, and they are going to need to stand up and eliminate that department.
State was mentioned here also, the state level.
Well, we do have sovereign states, so, I mean, within the state.
Well, it's going to take a groundswell from our communities as well as our teachers to make a difference. There are some teachers' unions in other states that are starting to find the Common Core. And that's the main reason that we would want to have more local control is because it's gotten out of hand with the implementation and with the high-risk tests that they're doing. But we're going to have to work at it together. The school board within itself cannot do it. The county within itself cannot do it. We're going to have to band together and make it sound, and make them understand, just like recently, the textbook situation, the reason that down in the central part of the state, the parents had such an uproar that the state is now going to have the counties decide on which is going to be another budget thing because of but again, we're going to have to all work together from a groundswell and go and say, hey, this is it. We can't do it individually.
Okay, how to stop the mandates. Number one, we have a state constitution that says we are local controlled school districts, and we need to live by that constitution. Number two, we need to work with the state legislature to put into effect bills that ensure that local control. And I am currently working with House Representative, Florida House Representative Debbie Mayfield. She is the one who sponsored House Bill 25 this past session that would have put Common Core on hold. And it had a companion bill written by our Senator Greg Evers that would have put that on hold. But our Senate President Don Gates and our House Speaker Will Weatherford refused to allow those bills to even be read in committee. They didn't see the light of day. And Debbie Mayfield and I sent her a bill, and we are working on a bill that would ensure local control of the curriculum and of the teachers and how they teach, and that there would be no punishment or threats to remove our finances, our funding, by doing that.
Should school board members continue to be elected, or would you like them to be appointed? As a follow-up to that answer, would you serve without pay?
That's me.
Yes, ma'am.
I was surprised to find out when I initially, several years ago, like Miss Boston is now because her children are younger, I was very involved in school and I was asked to run for school board because I was outspoken as well as I was very much a community involved participant. And I was surprised to find out that you got paid because where I grew up and where we came from, you didn't get paid. And so I said, well, I know what I'll do. I'll run, if I do run, I'll run for no salary or $1 a year. And they said, well, the state won't care. They'll just keep the money, you know. So I decided, okay, I'd take it and I'd use it. And if I'm elected, I would give $3,000 of my salary back into as scholarships, probably to middle school, to help middle school students have summer camps or go to choices so that they can be prepared where they want to go in high school in trying to get scholarships. When you got, Gulf Breeze got $16 million worth of scholarships. I was real pleased when I went to their graduation to hear that. The other schools didn't come. 3 counselors in a high school cannot do it. And we've got to start showing that we care.
School boards need to remain elected. You hire us to do the job. We are on a job interview right now while we're campaigning. You must have a say. If they're appointed, you don't get that say. You cannot hire or fire, and that's the problem we have right now in Tallahassee. Those are all appointed positions. We have no say-so on hiring and firing them. And Pam Stewart selected the American Institutes for Research to write the replacement test for the FCAT. That organization is a nonprofit organization that is all about social engineering and behavior modification. And they also have an LGBTQI2S agenda that will come through in the test if we allow it. So we must remain elected. As far as working for no pay, absolutely I would work for no pay. This is a job that needs to be done. It's a calling, it's a passion, but similar to what Fushsia has said she's going to do, I am taking a portion of my pay, probably a good sized chunk of it, and I am going to set up a process whereby new teachers will be able to come to me and on a grant type basis, I will allow them money to set up their classrooms because it costs an atrocious amount for them to do so.
So, okay. Absolutely, yes. When I was asked to run by several teachers 4 years ago and parents in the community, I thought it was a volunteer position because also where I came from, that's what it was, involved community members. And would I work for no pay? Clearly. I do many things already and have done for years for no pay because it's the right thing to do. That's what you do when you're a good member of your community. You participate. I brought grants to the school. I actually served on a grant committee where we gave $1,000 to a math and science teacher at the high school, Kilpatrick Grant Committee, so we did that. Absolutely, and I believe that our state school board members too should be elected and have addressed that in the past as well.
All right, a two-part question here. Without federal money, how much money would the state need to come up with to make up the difference? Specifically, how much would it affect our county budget? Ms. Debbie?
I don't have the specific dollar figure. I could easily get it because I can call up the budget to see how much actually comes in through the federal funding. I do know that over the past 4 years, we have accepted $2.2 million here in Santa Rosa County to implement Common Core. If that money is gone, how do we make it up? How does the state make it up? I know it's going to be millions, but I would be willing as a citizen, as a taxpayer, to come up with that money however we needed to do so to get rid of the federal government out of our schools. The money that comes down from DC, from the U.S. Department of Education, always has strings attached to it. And I want them gone. I want them gone out of our schools, and if that means that we have to work harder and think better to make cuts, to figure out how we do the funding, then that's what we've got to do to get rid of them. But we do need to get them out of our schools.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question?
Without federal money, how much money would the state need to come up with to make up the difference? How much would it affect our county budget?
And I was recently looking at the budget, and I can't give you the exact breakdown either of the federal percentage, state, and local taxpayers. But I believe, well, I'm quite certain of it, many times the federal programs that are mandated do not cover the cost of implementing the program. No Child Left Behind is a very specific example. The mandates that were given with that were not even covered by the money that they put down. So, you know, cost-benefit analysis, obviously you're going to need to get into the numbers, but you actually may come out better off not having them involved because you don't have to do their mandates, which is actually costing you more than they're providing. So, obviously that would just be a budget evaluation at the time.
Can I ask you a question?
No problem. Without federal money, how much money would the state need to come up with to make up the difference? How much would it affect our county budget?
Well, I had a meeting, I went up and talked with Susan McCall to start learning about the budget. And as this year's budget, the federal money was over $20 million, and the state resources was $116 million. Excuse me, no, that's right, million. So that tells you how much difference there is, 20 million, so the federal, we lose it. One of the concerns that I have is the way that we do the budget, and that now it is not the school board's fault, but I would like for us to look at school-based budgets, because I think it would be at least look at the feasibility. Then each school, for instance, would get their own monies, where right now all of their federal money goes into one pot. And for instance, in some areas they get the federal money sends more. They send it for Gulf Breeze, or they send it for Milton, or they send it for Jay. But those schools don't get their money. It goes into one pot and it's spread out all over. And I think it would be good if we could have it more centralized for each school.
All right, well, those are all the questions that I have. I'd like to allow the candidates to wrap up their final thoughts. And, sir?
The Federal Department of Education, which is unconstitutional, costs $16 billion a year just to run the agency. $16 billion. If we didn't send the taxes to Washington for that, the state would have plenty.
There you go.
Now, we're going to start, again, I apologize, I didn't cast lots of this. We'll start with Ms. Gunnoe and Ms. Blaston, and then Ms. Fushsia. You each have 90 seconds to wrap up your thoughts and finally ask for our votes.
Obviously, I have a passion about Common Core and getting it out of our schools. That's my number one goal during that time. It's been 100 years in the making. It's not something that I'll be able to do overnight, to fix it. It is going to take a lot of time and a lot of people to convince that we need to get it out of our schools. I will tell you, teachers and parents right now want it gone today. They don't want to wait for the legislation that it would take to remove it. I also am against the standardized testing because I do not feel the standardized testing reflects what the teachers have taught nor the children have learned. And I have heard time and again from parents how their child was on honor roll, yet failed the FCAT and is now either being held back, has to go to summer school, or is on remedial education programs because of that one score. And a teacher asked me, why do we have scores or grades throughout the year if that child's education and my job security rests right on that one score that's done at the end of the school year. So standardized testing needs to be gone as well. I think the teachers need some job stability. We need to get into them being on something more than a year-to-year contract. I'd like to see 3-year contracts as a minimum and 5 years for those that have their master's degree. I'm Debbie Gunnoe. I'm running for School Board District 3, and I would appreciate your vote on August 26th.
My diversity of experience with business, education, I understand the school system from all aspects, from the parent perspective, from the student's perspective, from the taxpayer perspective, from the teacher's perspective. I'm a military wife, so I also understand it from the military perspective. I help many students through scouting, through youth group, look for scholarships, I help my own son with his appointment to the Air Force Academy. My daughter's now doing her prerequisites for nursing, so between helping them and helping other students, I have a great diversity of experience to serve this community well. These are the same bullet points I used last time: honesty, integrity, accessibility. These aren't just things I came up with. This is who I am. It's how I live my life. I have a website. Check me out. I would appreciate your vote on August 26th. Carol Boston. Thank you.
I don't have to say what I think in just a few seconds. It's hard to do, but I will say that I'm ready to pay it forward. I had 2 sons that did go through the school system here. They both were able. I will give you an example. Robert is my older son. In 5th grade, he came home and said he wanted to go to the Naval Academy because it was the 4th hardest school in the nation. He wanted to be a pilot, and he felt like if he could land on a carrier that he would be one of the best pilots. He was able to do that, not because of me, and not just because of him, but because of the education he got in this county. I want to pay it forward. My second son is one that was not one that liked to be in school a whole lot. And he always wanted to be outdoors and with people. He now sells fishing equipment. He absolutely loves what he does, and people love him. Both my children are doing their childhood dreams, and it was with the support of this school system, our family, and our church that gave them the inspiration and gave them the wherewithal to go back and do what they wanted to do and live their American dream. I'm the only one that has grandchildren in this county. I'm the only one who's had children go all the way through it. I've been living in this county for 30 years. I support this county. I love this county, and I want to see us get back to where we should be. So vote for me.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you inviting me. I appreciate the candidates. I hope that, as I have, you've enjoyed getting to know them a little bit better. and that you'll be able to make an intelligent choice in August. Thank you so much.
Thank you.